In a political bombshell that's shaking the very foundation of Westminster, Nigel Farage has seized the moment to deliver a thunderous declaration following Sir Keir Starmer's jaw-dropping collapse in the polls. With Labour projected to lose a staggering 200 seats, Farage didn't hold back, calling the results a complete rejection of the political establishment and a clear mandate for Reform UK. Emerging as the ultimate disruptor, Farage's party is now on track to claim a historic 72 seats, cementing itself as the new voice of a disillusioned Britain. For Starmer, this devastating blow marks a turning point, and for Farage, it's a triumph that could reshape the political landscape for years to come. Stay tuned, this is just the beginning. Labour's catastrophic losses just months after the general election signal a complete collapse of voter confidence. Starmer's policies, messaging, and leadership have failed to connect with key voter groups, particularly the traditional working-class base, which appears to be abandoning the party en masse. Reform UK has capitalized on this discontent, gaining ground in former Labour strongholds and positioning itself as the voice of a frustrated electorate. The loss of 6 cabinet ministers to Reform and another to an independent candidate underscores Labour's vulnerability and raises serious questions about Starmer's ability to hold his party together. Calls for internal reform, or even a change in leadership, are now inevitable. At the center of this political earthquake stands Nigel Farage. Reform UK's meteoric rise to 72 seats, and a remarkable 21. Farage's focus on immigration, national identity, and economic discontent has resonated with voters disillusioned by both Labour and the Conservatives. His sharp, strategic messaging has captured hearts and minds, siphoning off support from both major parties and reshaping the political conversation. Meanwhile, the Conservatives, despite narrowly leading the vote share with 26, are grappling with their own crisis. A projected seat count of just 222 reflects years of voter fatigue, economic mismanagement, and leadership struggles. Far from capitalizing on Labour's collapse, the Tories are losing ground to Farage's insurgent movement, particularly in areas where anti-establishment sentiment is boiling over. The result? A fragmented parliament with no party close to a majority? Labour may look to form alliances with smaller parties like the Liberal Democrats, SNP, or Greens, while the Conservatives face the possibility of working with Reform UK, though Farage seems more likely to remain an independent force. This fractured landscape is a recipe for political gridlock, with no clear mandate to tackle the pressing issues of economic recovery, public safety, and sovereignty. Ultimately, this poll lays bare the deep public frustration with the political status quo. Voters are abandoning the traditional parties in search of bold alternative leadership. Farage's rise signals a seismic shift in British politics, one that could define the nation's future for years to come. Next on the agenda, watch as Nigel Farage delivers a fiery response to Kemi Badenoch's explosive accusation that the Reform Party is artificially inflating its membership numbers via their website. Farage doesn't hold back, calling the claim absolutely disgusting, and slamming Badenoch for what he sees as a desperate attempt to undermine Reform UK's surging momentum. With tensions running high, this war of words is shaping up to be a political showdown you won't want to miss. Stay tuned.
Nigel, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and congratulations, you have overtaken the Tory party, or have you?
Well, I mean, the idea that the leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition is accusing me of fraud is absolutely disgusting. She may be used to being in a party that lies to the British public. We are not. We put that digital tracker up a few days ago, showing every single person that goes online, gives us their postcode and pays us £25. Even since we went through that number yesterday morning, the numbers are rocketing. We're another 5,000 or 6,000 higher than we were. We went past the Conservative Party, and I know that Kemi Badenoch is well known for her aggression and for lashing out, but to accuse me of not understanding the digital age when I've got 5.5 million followers on social media and she's got fewer than 1/3 frankly, was a bit rich. I'm sorry, but the truth is there is a massive, as Cameron hinted a moment ago, the truth is there is a very big shift that is going on in British politics.
So, Nigel, what do you say to Kemi's allegation that it's a fake because of the back of the website, the coding on the back of the website or something has been ticking up the members artificially?
Well, she calls herself an engineer. Let me tell you, she's not even in the same league as our chairman, Zia Youssef, who has made vast amounts of money on tech and through digital media. And we have had our work confirmed by several independent sources overnight. If the Conservative Party want us to call in one of the big four auditors to check the validity of our numbers against the ballot papers that were sent out of the leadership contest, thousands of which went to lapsed Conservative members and those that had resigned earlier this year, I think if the truth came out, she'd be very, very embarrassed indeed. You know, I don't mind all sorts of comments being made about me, but to be accused by her of being a fraudster, I'm sorry, I'm not going to let this rest.
Nigel Farage's blistering response, particularly his bold claim, she may be used to being in a party that lies to the British public. We are not, showcases his unmatched ability to turn accusations into opportunities for attack. This calculated move reinforces his persona as a no-nonsense anti-establishment figure, standing in stark contrast to the perceived insincerity of mainstream politicians. By branding Kemi Badenoch's claims as absolutely disgusting, Farage not only defends Reform UK's integrity, but also positions his party as the honest alternative disillusioned voters are craving. Badenoch's accusation that Reform UK is artificially inflating membership numbers reeks of an attempt to undercut the party's rapid ascent. Yet, without hard evidence, such a move risks spectacularly backfiring. Farage thrives on these moments, spinning them into a narrative of establishment persecution, further energizing his base. Badenoch's comments, coming from a senior Conservative figure, reveal deep-seated Tory unease about Reform's growing clout, cementing Farage's status as a genuine threat to the political status quo. At the heart of this dispute is Reform UK's surging membership and rising prominence in the polls. Farage's genius lies in his ability to leverage even negative press to spotlight his party's growth. This is not just a defensive maneuver. It's a calculated offensive, tapping into widespread dissatisfaction with traditional parties and presenting Reform as the fresh, trustworthy alternative the public is searching for. This clash enhances Farage's image as a fearless leader who doesn't shy away from confrontation, a quality that resonates with a disillusioned electorate. Meanwhile, Badenoch risks appearing either unprepared or panicked if her claims remain unsubstantiated, a misstep that could alienate voters and boost Reform UK's credibility. The broader picture here is one of increasing fragmentation on the right. The Conservatives, struggling to hold their base, now face an insurgent force in Reform UK that is siphoning off support. Farage has seized the narrative, forcing the Tories to play defense. This latest episode underscores Farage's ability to dominate the political conversation, keeping Reform UK in the limelight while leaving the Conservatives scrambling to respond. The Labour councillor's stark warning about the serious threat posed by Reform UK exposes the growing unease within the party's ranks. Redirecting resources to battlegrounds like Thurrock signals not just a defensive maneuver, but a glaring vulnerability in Labour's nationwide strategy. Keir Starmer's leadership is increasingly under scrutiny, and with his policies failing to stem the tide, the pressure to pivot or step aside will intensify if the party falters further. The 2025 local elections are shaping up to be a make-or-break moment for Labour's future, testing Starmer's ability to galvanize his base and hold off Reform's advance. Reform UK's meteoric rise, from just 5 seats in July to a projected 72, signals a seismic shift in British politics. Farage's direct messaging on immigration and economic reform cuts through the noise, resonating with a disenchanted electorate tired of establishment platitudes. Deputy Leader Richard Tice's vow to eliminate wokeness and slash diversity and inclusion roles taps into a populist zeitgeist, offering tangible policies that traditional parties have struggled to deliver. Reform's push to embed itself locally, with 1,000 candidates set to contest council seats in 2025, highlights a strategic pivot that could secure long-term influence at both grassroots and national levels. But Labour isn't the only party under threat. The Conservatives face their own reckoning as Reform UK siphons off-right, leaning voters disillusioned with Tory inaction on economic stagnation and cultural tension. Reform's rise underscores the vulnerability of both major parties, each struggling to address the deepening dissatisfaction of an electorate demanding bold, decisive change. At its core, the ascent of Reform UK reflects a profound realignment in voter sentiment. Farage's no-nonsense messaging channels a rejection of the political establishment, presenting reform as the alternative to the inertia of legacy parties. This populist surge captures the frustrations of a public yearning for disruption and a break from the status quo. The stakes for the 2025 local elections couldn't be higher. For Labour, a poor showing could entrench Reform UK's position and accelerate the party's decline, placing Starmer's leadership on even shakier ground. For Reform, a strong performance would validate its strategy and solidify its claim to being Britain's third political force. Meanwhile, a fragmented parliament looms on the horizon, with the rise of Reform increasing the likelihood of coalition politics and the potential for gridlock if no party can secure a clear majority. Labour's predicament and Reform UK's rise illustrate a dramatic reshaping of the UK's political dynamics. For Starmer, the challenge is clear: reconnect with voters, address their concerns with authenticity, and reclaim the initiative. For the Conservatives, the task is equally urgent: staunch the bleeding of their voter base and re-establish their relevance. As Reform UK gains momentum, the traditional parties must grapple with an evolving political landscape where their dominance is no longer guaranteed. Thanks for watching. Stay connected. Don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with our latest videos and stay ahead of the curve on the issues shaping our world. For even more, join our free Telegram group, link in the description, for uncensored, no-holds-barred discussions on the topics that matter most. Be part of the conversation. Your voice counts.